Hi, I'm Quinn, and I'm autistic, and this is Autistic. Who of you out there has been hit by an autistic truth bomb before? Not sure? Okay, let's make it easier. Who of you out there watching knows someone who's autistic? Yeah? See? That's most of you. Now put your hand down if you yourself are the only autistic person you know. All right? So, everyone else with their virtual hands still up, you have been hit by an autistic truth bomb. And if those other autists are people you see every day, then you might even be under a constant aerial assault of truth ordnance that only stops when they, or you, sleep. Now, anyone who's watched my content thoroughly will know that I'm not a fan of contrived listicle videos on YouTube. That 10 amazing things you didn't know about but will change your life forever kind of videos. But sometimes things fall naturally into a bullet point format or a group of clearly definable categories, which is why this week I'm being a bit more YouTube than usual.
Be more YouTube.
So, if you've got a few minutes to spare and a nice hot cuppa to sup on, why not join me and discover the 5 different explosive varieties of autistic truth bombs? So, first things first, what is an autistic truth bomb? It's what happens when an autist tells a truth or quotes a verifiable fact, but doesn't get the reaction they expect. And usually, we're talking bad reactions. I drop them all the time, and if you're autistic, so do you, even if you don't realise it yet. Of course, anyone is capable of dropping a truth bomb. Nobody's suggesting autistic folks have a monopoly on it, but we do have a justified reputation for unloading payloads of unwanted truth into conversations. Autistic truth-telling is a consequence of our raised sense of veracity. Autistic people have a high motivation towards consistency and replicability, and it's represented in almost every distinction that marks us out as autistic. In the clinical manuals, it's listed as rigidity, black and white thinking, limited imagination, among others. But the huge interconnected role it plays in modulating our sensory and emotional differences is more or less ignored. Yet it's without doubt the single most unsettling and troublesome aspect of our differences for many autistic folks. One way that we seek continuity is through truth. Lies only complicate matters, and whilst pretty much every autist has had a go at lying at some point in our lives, most of us gave it up as not worth the bother when we were very young. But that's not to say that an autistic truth can always be relied upon to be accurate or objective. We're just as capable of making mistakes or of being misled as anyone else. We can hold fully formed opinions that don't hold water under examination as well. And I've no problem with being called out if I'm guilty of that myself. In fact, that's one of the things I like so much about autistic folks as friends. There's no doubt that a heightened sense of veracity inclines us towards honesty, and both my personal dealings with autists and the clinical record to date support the idea that compared to non-autistic controls, autistic people are far more inclined to tell the truth as we see it, even when we know doing it will hurt us. And the consequences when we get caught out can be much harder too. I know that from the hundreds of conversations and thousands of text exchanges I've had with autistic folks since I got my diagnosis 40 or so years ago. But you don't have to take my word for it. There's also plenty of evidence in the case notes and diaries of every teacher, doctor, policeman, lawyer, caseworker, union rep, HR manager, social worker, anyone who's worked with autistic people. Whilst anybody can, and probably has, dropped a truth bomb or two in their lives and paid the consequences, you have to go a long way to beat an autist for sheer volume and frequency of truth bombing, and sometimes their devastation. So, what do they look like? We'll start with fascinating facts. Last week I mentioned my childhood collection of vintage encyclopedias I spent so much time reading and quoting from when I was a little one. I also mentioned that they didn't always go down well. This is the least harmful of the autistic truth bombs because the worst it usually does is get people a bit annoyed with us. But it can get a lot worse if we don't take the hint. Oh, what was that? Autistic people aren't very good at taking hints. Yep, you're absolutely right. And this is why that should just be nothing more than a truth firecracker. But it often ends up more of a truth grenade. Most speaking autists I've met are walking libraries of interesting tidbits about our specific interests, and we love to share when we recognise a bit of interest in someone else. But a lot of us aren't that good at telling the difference between someone being interested and listening to us and just being tolerated. I've done it myself, I still do it. I'm fascinated by etymology and the interconnectedness of language. Knowing the background of a word or phrase injects it with more life than it holds in the moment, more legacy, I guess. And all too often I share it with people who aren't interested. For me, it's enriching to know the relationships between words of common origin and the evolution of their usage and adaptations over time and continents. Not everybody sees it that way. At my age, I've gotten a little better at spotting when someone's trying to give me the hint that I'm off on an etymological tangent nobody's interested in, but I'm far from aware of it all the time. I still get it wrong over and again, and not just about that. Countless topics of interest and multitudes of fascinating facts, cautionary tales and jolly japes that would brighten up my day are nothing but a nuisance to some of the folks I talk to. Fascinating facts are at the bottom of the truth bomb scale, though, because they very rarely do that much damage. Embarrassment, yes, confusion maybe, and certainly frustration on the other side of the fence. But it's usually not a huge issue. Most of the time, people won't show any sign of their discomfort, and when they eventually do, it's usually quite polite, very direct about the need to move on the whole, but rarely that critical. Mind you, I still would be terrible at spotting those signals now if I hadn't had my fascinating facts blow up in my face many times before. Truth bomb number 2, our landmine, if you like, is alternate perspectives. This is, if you like, an autistic scale failure to read the room. It's those, oh no, why did I say that kind of moment. It's not that what we said was untrue or intended to hurt, but those were not the right people to say it in front of. Without intending to, we've caused offence, and it all goes boom from there. Obviously, we think that what we said is socially acceptable, or we wouldn't have said it, but nobody else does. As far as they're concerned, we said something we shouldn't have, and we need to retract it, apologise for it, make up for it, atone for our sins. Unfortunately, there's a lot more social landmines of this nature around of late because a lot has changed around us. The most common kind of perspective error used to be hierarchical, saying the wrong thing to someone we're supposed to protect or respect. The sort of thing you might get away with being called cheeky on a good day or inappropriate on a bad one. It's saying something that grandma's a bit too old-fashioned about, or telling the boss what you honestly think of his management style. But those are very personal situations, face-to-face interactions for the most part, but we talk to people in lots of other ways too now. Assuming you haven't been living under a rock, you'll have noticed that in the last decade or so, a lot of people have taken on entrenched, factionalised standpoints on lots of social and political issues we used to have broad agreement on, or didn't talk about because they didn't actually affect us personally that much. But now, we've even more potential for setting off perspective landmines on social media, in public places, and with strangers at the bus stop. The potential goes beyond our personal relationships and extends to all our dealings with other people. State a fact about climate change, immigration, elections, vaccines, medicines, and of course autism now, and the chances are very good that there'll be people around with completely contradictory opinions and alternative facts to blow it all up. Truth bomb number 3, the artillery shell, if you like, is immediate contradiction. We drop these bombs when we introduce a verifiable fact or truth into the conversation which contradicts the knowledge or feelings of the person we're talking to, and they take it personally. This is more than a question of perspective or of innocence, but one of perceived insult. We're moving into the realms of truth bombs with lasting consequences now. This isn't about two people having a difference of opinion here. These bombs only explode when verifiable or indisputable facts go up against incorrect info or ill-conceived opinions. And unlike fascinating facts, we're equally as likely to be the ones who kick off this time. People not being receptive to our interests, we can live with. Altering our behaviour to suit different social requirements is doable too, if it's rules-based and we understand those rules. But this is where it starts to get personal. And it covers quite a wide spectrum too. At its least traumatic, it's simply us facing an opinion that is, or at least would be, easy to correct, and facing resistance from the other party. The bomb can go off in either or both directions, depending on the temperament and the nature of the information in question. When two people disagree on a fact or verifiable matter, it should be easy enough to solve the dispute just by providing the proof. Both parties walk away richer, one with new knowledge and both of them with better peace of mind. But some folks see being right as a matter of pride. They don't like to be seen as wrong, and they take the suggestion, even that they're mistaken, as a grave insult worth fighting over. Boom. But some of us are liable to find this difficult too, setting our sense of veracity on fire and starting the wheels rolling on the meltdown train. Someone using their authority, force of will, or aggression to assert their mistake or their opinion over us is an acutely autistic form of mental torture. But it gets worse. Then there's people who tell us we don't know our own minds. You know the type. A very specific kind of gaslighting is at play. We mess up and try to apologise because we didn't mean it or we didn't know, but they're not having it. They tell us we did know and we knew exactly what we were doing, and they've had enough of our excuses. When someone tells me my motivations, my thoughts or my feelings are something other than they actually are, then that hits me hard. If I were the angry type, then it would be a red rag to a bull. I feel personally offended, hurt, saddened, frustrated, and a whole bunch of other nasty feelings I don't like having. It gets even worse when they dig their heels in, accuse us of lying to them, or at its absolute worst, tell us they know more about our thoughts and feelings than we do, because we're autistic and they're normal. So who do you think's got the problem, eh? These are truth bombs that really do blow shit up properly. If we're lucky, it's just an emotional graze, maybe some minor relationship damage. But if repeated or egregious enough, it can potentially mark the end of a relationship, a social outlet, or even a career. Truth bomb number 4 is hit a nerve gas, and it's deadly to relationships. Sadly, this is usually a friendly fire incident too. We make the mistake and we pay the price for it, though we're often not the only ones. Other people get hurt too, by us a lot of the time, and people sometimes hate us for it. It's those, oh shit, I've just put my foot right in it kind of moment we're thinking of here. Those things we say out loud because we're sure everybody else knows or they all feel the same way, only to find out that they didn't, and they don't. In fact, you've just told everybody a secret that not only drops someone else in it, but digs a hole for you too. This is carpet bombing your relationships whilst playing sympathy for the devil at full blast. The potential for lasting damage and shattered friendships is serious business now. You've said something that is revealing, shocking maybe, and very, very embarrassing for someone. It's true, and you probably can prove it too, but that doesn't matter. It was not supposed to be said out loud. You're on a works night out. The boss has had a few and asked you how you like working there, wants you to be completely honest about how you feel. We're on company time now. He'll still take it badly when you tell him that nobody respects him. Or you sat round the table with friends and you casually let it slip that Bill's sleeping with Betty behind Barry's back, but Barry doesn't know, and you just blurted it out. There's countless ways in which we can say the wrong thing socially in complete innocence or with total confidence we know what we're doing, only to have it backfire on us, and not just with the people we've embarrassed. Betty will be mad at you too, and everyone else around the dinner table now has to explain to Barry why they kept it from him. Before you know it, every relationship in the room is in jeopardy. It doesn't have to be personal secrets or criticism, but it most often is. What makes these so powerfully destructive is that the other party takes it so intensely personally and often transfers much of their guilt and fear of being caught onto us. The shoot the messenger syndrome, if you like. They may try to squirm their way out of it with lies and excuses, and they may even succeed. But the damage is done to that relationship already. And if they do wheedle their way out of it, it'll often go worse for us, because they win folks over to their side, leaving us looking bitter or just spiteful. Up to now, you'll have noticed a pattern of escalation in the analogies I've drawn. Each step has been compared to a more devastating explosive device to illustrate the increasing potential for damage to our relationships at each step. But there is another pattern you might have noticed. It's not just that the explosive yield of each truth bomb increases, but who gets hurt. Fascinating facts and different perspectives annoy or frustrate other folks, and that does impact on us if they choose to pick us up on them. But contradictions and tactless truths don't fail to hurt us in the moment too. When we contradict people, they answer us back, and when we embarrass them, they often hit back at us hard. We may drop the bombs, but we get actively caught in the blast. But our fifth and final truth bomb is different. Its destructive potential is the highest yield yet, but it's almost entirely us that suffer. That's why it isn't the nuclear option. It's the bouncing bomb. In the real world, the bouncing bomb was an ingenious device that allowed explosives to be launched over water, using their spin and momentum to reach their targets, kind of like a stone skipping across a lake. We're talking bouncing bombs in the cartoon sense here. If Wile E. Coyote dropped a bomb on the Roadrunner, we all know that some twist of fate and cartoon physics would make it bounce back up and explode in his face while the Roadrunner meeped away into the distance. The most destructive truth bombs come from truths we tell about ourselves. Oversharing is kind of an autistic cliche by now, but it's nothing to joke about. Few things can do more damage to our relationships, our reputations, careers, our entire lives sometimes. In my time, I've met quite a few autists who've lost everything thanks to an ill-judged confession of something they had no idea was controversial, and many more with tales of lucky escapes. Truth bomb number 5, at its least potent, is still nightmarish to behold. Whether we're instantly embarrassed or it comes later, one way or another we'll know 100% how badly we screwed up. It's usually not the truth itself nor the circumstances that we got wrong. It was who we told it to. One way or another we misjudged how much someone valued our friendship, or we misunderstood their morals, religion, or something else important that makes them judge our confession as unforgivable. But it happens for mercenary reasons too. That little tidbit that made your colleague laugh and you thought brought you closer together was actually filed away for later, only to be brandished as a weapon or a defence when the opportunity arises. Bye-bye promotion, farewell credibility, sayonara self-respect, and welcome to humiliation. And of course, some folks trigger your unexploded truth bombs just for the shits and giggles, and they're sometimes the ones which hurt the hardest. The maximum damage for the least practical gain. People often assume that when we overshare, it's down to naivety, some kind of childlike innocence. We're unaware of the gravity of what we say, so we know not what we do. And yes, that's true some of the time, though maybe without so much of the childlike bit. Every time we overshare, we've misjudged either the situation, the recipient, or both, but that's where the innocence bit stops. Sometimes we know that what we're telling you is controversial or potentially embarrassing, but we're not doing it out of ignorance. It's motivated by a desire to help you, the person we're talking to. We're taking a calculated risk on opening up about something because we're hoping it'll help solve a problem, end a dispute, or maybe just cheer you up. The only mistake we made, the only ignorance we're guilty of, was in trusting someone we shouldn't. Autistic people may launch these truth-bearing doomsday weapons, but every one of them is a dud until someone else triggers the detonator. It happened to me in the workplace more than once before I learned my lesson there. Someone I thought was a friend confessed a mistake they were worried would get them into trouble. I helped them fix it, and to reassure them, tell them of a mistake I made that I didn't get to fix. Next thing I know, I'm hauled up in front of the boss for incompetence, whilst my so-called work friend gets brownie points for bringing my failures to light, knowing their own indiscretion has already been scrubbed from the records by me. An overshare is sometimes a mistake, sometimes a calculated risk, but it's always a sign of vulnerability. And why do you think anyone does that, eh? Why would someone voluntarily admit a weakness to someone else when there's no rules or even obligation to do so? It's an unequivocal gesture of trust, of kindness, and ultimately of friendship. It's why my cats roll over and show their bellies to me whenever I approach them. They know they can trust me not to hurt them. But I wouldn't trust anyone who sets off one of my oversharing bombs intentionally anywhere near my cats. It's a fine line I tread every time I upload to YouTube. And since it's pretty difficult for an autistic creative to talk about autism without using their own experience as inspiration, I have a great deal of company. Every video I upload exposes another personal vulnerability. I talk of mistakes I've made and the consequences they've had, but it's abundantly clear I'm far from done making mistakes. I describe the many ways I and others have been taken advantage of how we've doubted ourselves and all the fears and insecurities underpinning it all, and in doing so, I'm drawing a roadmap of my own abuse and failure. But I've got a reason for doing it. I do it for the same reason any honest creator in this space takes the risk, and it's that same one again. I'm trying to make a positive difference to other people's lives. I learned from my mistakes and put contingencies into place to prevent them happening again. Plus, I'm far wiser to the warning signals than I ever have been. But I don't half wish I'd had someone help me making sense of it all those years. It doesn't mean I'm invulnerable. If anything, doing this just paints a bigger target on my back, but that's where my bulging sack of autistic veracity comes into it. I'm just telling the truth, warts and all, and that offers me a measure of protection too. When I talk about my failures and my struggles, my confusion and my difficulty making sense of a world that thinks it knows itself but quite clearly doesn't, I'm not offering up a vulnerability of my own. I'm offering strength to others. I'm talking about things I've either worked out already or I'm at least already at peace with not knowing. But I also know that me saying, I don't know, serves a similar purpose to anything I can be certain about. It shows we're in the same boat, facing the same challenges, and where I don't have the answers, I'm just as adrift and in need of guidance as any of us. But that's the other reason some of us overshare too. Armour. You can't hurt us with a weapon if we gave it to you. Sometimes oversharing isn't a mistake or an attempt to help out. It's protection. That truth we gave you might be a dud. It's been dismantled and made safe, so you can pump the detonator as much as you want, and it won't blow up in our faces. You can try to find new flesh to wound, new angles to penetrate our defences, but we gave you a deactivated device. It's not a dagger to stab our backs, it's a rubber knife from a joke shop. You can slash away as much as you like, but you'll get nowhere. The thing is, most autistic folks choose to go along with our natures and just tell the truth as we see it and put our trust in facts we can verify because it makes for a simpler, less stressful life. But in a world that's expecting deception around the corner, is it any wonder some folks just can't get their head around someone like us who just tells the truth? Most folks live in a world that not only expects lies, but sees through them so easily they don't see them as lies anymore, not the way autistic people see them. So they're judging us by standards they've been taught are impossible, even unreasonable. And that teaching goes so deep, some have even forgotten how to properly, fully, candidly tell the truth themselves. Now, I've a bonus truth bomb for you too, but before I go into it, There's been a few comments recently from folks saying that they wanted to use the hype feature to boost a video of mine, but they couldn't find it. Well, I noticed the other day that I only see the hype feature when I'm watching on my phone, tablet, or TV on the YouTube app, but I never see it on a browser. So, if you do want to help me get some more views with this hype feature, you'll have to do it from the YouTube app instead of your desktop. You get 3 chances to hype per week, which you can spend on 3 different videos or all on the same one. It's entirely up to you. I'm not going to pretend I couldn't do with it. The more views I get, the more folks learn a bit more about themselves or the autistic folks they know, and the closer I get to actually making a living doing this. This is my only way of earning since I was made redundant, so every little boost helps. And if you've been helped by my work yourself and you want to help me keep doing it and eating regular meals, there's Patreon for ongoing support and Ko-fi or YouTube Thanks for a one-off. They're all linked in the description. Oh, and for those who ask why they don't get notifications when someone replies to their comments here on YouTube, it's in your profile settings on YouTube itself, whether it's in the app or in the browser. You go into your personal settings, find the notifications bit, and choose the setting that suits your needs. And, of course, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you'll get reminded when I put a new video out to comment on too. Now, I've just got to skedaddle for a minute to record an extra bit for my patrons, then I'll be back with that bonus truth bomb. Hello. Nice to see you again. The final truth bomb isn't one we need to be watchful for, not a trap waiting to trip us up, but it can be no less consequential. Because at some point, everyone who knows they're autistic learned that truth. And it's one of the most impactful moments of many lives. The truth that we are not weird or broken, just autistic, is one many of us will have been seeking longer than we can remember. The way I learned I'm autistic was remarkable in its day, but would be par for the course now. In fact, my diagnosis at 13, nearly 14, would be pretty late by current standards. It was impactful right from the start, but whilst I presumed I'd get used to the idea and the world would catch up with autism and everything it means eventually, I had no idea how slow that process would turn out to be. I certainly never thought that in my 50s it would become my job, my vocation, to help other autistic people navigate the minefields that came so close to taking me down. Anyone learning they're autistic now is thrust into a new world which offers confusion and new questions as much as it gives them answers for the ones they already had. Those are the questions I hope I can be here for to help make that final and most important autistic truth one that you're happy with. Because one of the worst things for me through my teens and 20s was having this diagnosis and learning all these ways in which I was apparently different, but having nobody to tell me it was all right, that I wasn't alone, that they knew my pain and had come out the other side, so I'd be able to do it too. That was my autistic truth. It doesn't have to be yours. I'm going to finish off with a little about the autistic cats, Neota and Orla, since quite a few of you have asked about them. They're sisters, and about 2.5 years old right now. They've been with us since they were 4 months old, and they're very, very different to one another. Like all our cats over the years, they came from a rescue centre, so when they came to us, they had big bald patches on their sides after being spayed, which took a couple of months to grow out. They had 2 brothers who went to separate homes later, but when we first met them, it was just the 2 girls on their own. The rescue folks wanted to keep them together if they could because Neota was a bit smaller than her siblings, getting pushed to one side and left out of things by the boys, but Orla had been sticking up for her, making sure Neota got her share. You'd never believe how much they've changed since then. As expected, Neota was really shy at first, very slow to come forward and unsure about playing, jumping at every noise from outside the window whilst Orla stood guard. But 2 years later, and Neota is unstoppable. She bounds about that place with energy I can only dream about, constantly got her nose in things, exploring and investigating, and boy oh boy does she love a nice lap to lie in. Orla's the chill one of the pair now. Now she doesn't need to be watching Neota's back anymore, she's the self-sufficient one of the pair. She sits in high places watching the world go by and does things at her own pace. When we bang their dishes to tell them dinner's coming, Neota turns up like a bullet, whilst all her sachets in a couple of minutes later when she's ready. She loves a cutch too, but on her terms. But thankfully I know what those terms are and they're quite acceptable, so she never goes short and nor do I. The rescue centre they came from is a place called Teckels in South Gloucestershire, not that far away from where we live, and they're a pretty amazing place. Their animals are so well looked after, and you never have reason to doubt the dedication or the love for their animals in any of the staff. They've got a YouTube page, which I'll link in the description if you're curious, and I'd not hesitate to recommend them to someone else in the area. Thanks to everyone who's answered the research questions about competition and games, by the way. Keep them coming if you've anything to add. And there were some great answers to Stacey's question about deep statements too, so we'll have a chat about those on the channel in a week or two. I've had a huge amount in my mail and messages too, so you've really done me proud with your response. I really do think that these days that the comment sections on my videos are almost as enlightening as anything I put on screen, and some of the thoughts expressed are brimming with kindness that I feel quite humbled by. So let's continue the competition theme this week with another inquiry. Have there been specific occasions in your lives where your feelings about competition have been a really big deal? Any situations or incidents that were brought about by you being more or less competitive than you were expected to, or maybe even wanted to be? Funny, weird, or difficult? All are welcome and definitely valuable contributions. I've certainly a couple of my own, and I might compile them with some of your stories if there's enough to make a video with. Okay, right. So that's enough for this week, I think. I'm Quinn, and I'm autistic. Thank you for watching. I'm editing the video that you've just watched, and look where all has been while I've been doing it.
I ever have been. I don't know. I wish I'd had someone help in making sense of it all of us.
Yeah, and so what if they are Star Wars pyjama bottoms?